The trailer for Avengers Endgame confirmed something most of us had already assumed. Tony Stark's journey back to Earth won't be simple. Robert Downey Jr.'s character was seen floating aimlessly in space, accepting the fact that he would die in the distant cosmos. Of course, his MCU journey may come to an end in the fourth Avengers movie, but it won't be alone in space. Tony Stark will definitely make it home to fight another day. In this video, we'll theorize how that might happen. Hey, can all you genius, billionaire, playboy, and playgirl philanthropists out there please remember to hit the subscribe button? It's the best way to keep up to date with all of Screen Rant's great new videos. At the end of Avengers Infinity War, we knew Tony Stark was in a nasty predicament. He'd made the active decision to stow away on Ebony Maw's ship on its journey back to Titan, knowing that he might not make it home. The fate of the universe was at stake, and Stark was prepared to take that risk to try and stop Thanos from getting his hands on all 6 Infinity Stones. When Mantis, Drax, Star-Lord, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange turned to dust when the Mad Titan ultimately snapped his fingers to erase half of all life in the universe, Stark was only left with Nebula for company, billions of miles from home. While we don't know if she's currently with him, what we do know is that he's in a seemingly hopeless situation, floating aimlessly in space with no food or water, and with oxygen running desperately low. But he will make it home, we're sure of that. So how might that happen? We have a few theories. One theory that might confuse a few people is that Doctor Strange will save Stark. Now, Strange appeared to turn to dust at the end of Avengers Infinity War, but given that he gave the Time Stone away to save Tony Stark's life, it's fairly clear that he knew Stark was important in defeating Thanos going forward. Maybe, therefore, he faked his own death and cast an illusion to make it look like he died so he could go off radar for a while in order to plan a counterattack on the Mad Titan. Wouldn't it be cool if Stark was on the verge of death only for a magic portal to open in front of him, leading from his spaceship directly back to Earth? The most common theory, however, at least prior to the Avengers Endgame trailer, was that Brie Larson's Captain Marvel will be the one who saves him. Having received a message sent by Nick Fury in the post-credits scene of Avengers Infinity War, Carol Danvers will definitely be heading to Earth, where she'll meet up with the surviving heroes of the MCU. When they inform her that Stark is missing, she might head towards Titan to see if anyone is alive, given that the ability to fly through space is one of her many powers. Bruce Banner would obviously know that Stark, Peter Parker, and Doctor Strange had gone there after their fight with Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian in New York, so he might ask her to do that. Danvers could then stumble across Stark's ship and save him before he dies, then bring him back to his home planet. Of course, there's another character, one who Stark is more familiar with, who has the ability to travel through space, and that's Thor. The Asgardian god of thunder will know Stark is missing, and having reconvened with the surviving Avengers, Bruce Banner could ask him to retrieve Stark from space. In the exact same way that Thor himself was rescued from a gloomy space predicament by the Guardians of the Galaxy in Avengers Infinity War, he could do the same favor for Stark and bring him back to Earth to take part in the fight of his life. Since the release of the Avengers Endgame trailer, however, the most popular theory is that none other than Pepper Potts will rescue her soulmate from his worrying cosmic situation. In the comic books, Potts has been a superhero in her own right, donning Iron Man-style armors and going by various super names, including the name Rescue. Now, in the trailer, Potts was very much the focal point of the scenes in which we saw Tony Stark. He recorded a message for her using the technology inside his Iron Man helmet, telling her he'd be dreaming of her when he ran out of oxygen and drifted off. He also used the word rescue when he suggested he had zero chance of rescue, which certainly feels like a hint, especially when you consider how often MCU movies have foreshadowed future events in subtle ways. Could it be that in her desperation, Pepper Potts puts on one of Stark's armors, perhaps a prototype space armor he was in the middle of building before he left Earth, and jets off into the cosmos to rescue the love of her life? It's certainly a possibility, and it would undoubtedly be very cool to see. Marvel Studios love to surprise us, however, so now we come to some less likely theories. But they're theories that we certainly shouldn't rule out. The Avengers Endgame trailer made a point of showing us that Shuri was missing, along with characters we already knew were missing like Scott Lang and Peter Parker, and that was something of a surprise given that Black Panther actress Angela Bassett recently said Shuri had survived the snap, along with her own character Ramonda. But that could have been misdirection. Marvel Studios are known to deceive us with their trailers. Look no further than the Avengers Infinity War trailer, which showed the Hulk fighting in Wakanda for proof of that. If Shuri is in fact alive, there's a theory that she could be the one who brings Tony Stark back to Earth. She's a technological genius, And in Avengers Infinity War, some of the tech she'd created in Wakanda was able to detect Thanos' minions entering Earth's atmosphere. Perhaps in Avengers Endgame, she'll create some tech that can detect where Tony Stark is, and ultimately send out some tech to bring him home. Some people believe Stark and Shuri will work alongside each other in the laboratories of Wakanda in Avengers Endgame, and having her save him from this awful predicament would certainly be a good way to start the relationship. But there could be an even bigger surprise. Stark's savior could come in the form of a character who hasn't yet been introduced in the MCU. Maybe Nova, Beta Ray Bill, or even Adam Warlock, whose name we heard in the final credit scene of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, will see Stark's ship on their travels through space, then take him back to Earth to fight another day. Regardless of who saves him, we can't wait to see Tony Stark back on Earth, reunited with the likes of Steve Rogers, Bruce Banner, and of course Pepper Potts, and eager to get his revenge on the prune-chinned warlord who stabbed him in the stomach and killed half of his friends.
If there's one thing we've learned when it comes to MCU movie trailers, it's not to trust what we see in them. For example, the Avengers Infinity War trailer showed the Hulk fighting in the Battle of Wakanda, and that definitely didn't end up happening in the movie itself. The Avengers Endgame trailer got us all excited for next April, but just how much of it can we believe? In this video, we'll be talking about the parts of the fourth Avengers movie trailer that could be lying to us. Don't you dare forget to hit that subscribe button. It's the best way of keeping up to date with all of Screen Rant's great new videos. The Avengers Endgame trailer opens with Tony Stark floating around in space, having run out of food and water, with oxygen on the verge of running out, and with zero chance of rescue. And that is the first lie we're told. Stark talks about this being the end of his journey, but of course we all know he'll survive, at least beyond his lonely space adventure. The likelihood is he'll be saved by someone like Captain Marvel, Thor, or even Pepper Potts in the rescue armor. So don't be too worried. He'll definitely have a much bigger part to play in Avengers Endgame, even if he ultimately doesn't make it out of the movie alive. Thanos is then shown on his farm, living out his life in peace, having accomplished his goal of erasing half of all life in the universe. There certainly aren't any major lies being told in this scene. It doesn't really last long enough for that, but he is still shown to be wearing the charred Infinity Gauntlet, and that may end up being far more shiny and fixed in the final version of the movie. Why would he still have it on if it was damaged beyond repair? He may even not be wearing it at all, if he considers himself to be safe from attack on this barren, as yet unidentified planet. The scene then switches to an external view of the Avengers headquarters in upstate New York, before we see Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, Bruce Banner, and Thor. And while the placing of the wide external shot of their HQ would suggest that's where they all are, they could really be anywhere. However, the potentially biggest lie of the trailer appears in these scenes. Bruce Banner is shown next to a holographic gallery of people who are missing after Thanos' snap, or the decimation to give it its now official in-universe name. And those people include Scott Lang, Peter Parker, and Shuri. Now, we know Lang was in the quantum realm, which makes his missing status legit. We know Parker was stranded on Titan when he turned to dust, therefore his missing status is also legit. But Angela Bassett recently confirmed that both her character Ramonda and Letitia Wright's Shuri survived the snap. So the fact that this trailer has led fans to believe Shuri turned to dust could be a lie. Of course, Shuri could also be alive and missing, perhaps if she's headed off on some kind of quest or adventure, but she may well be alive in Wakanda, with her missing picture placed deceptively into the trailer for the purpose of misdirection. We then see Nebula on board a spaceship, followed by a close-up of a hand touching someone on the shoulder. The scene seems to suggest that Nebula is on the same ship as Tony Stark, and that it's her hand touching Stark on the shoulder to comfort him, but both of those things could be lies. Nebula could be on a completely different ship to Stark, and that might not even have been her hand. Or Tony Stark's shoulder for that matter, given that the clothes don't seem to match what he's wearing in the earlier scenes. The hand does seem to have a blue tint to it, but that could be the lighting. Essentially, that hand and that shoulder, they could belong to anyone. Natasha Romanoff and Clint Barton, for example. Speaking of Barton, the trailer then turns its attention to him, in Japan, wearing new gear in the guise of Ronin. Natasha Romanoff is there, and while that's likely to be the case in the movie, don't be surprised if someone else ends up finding him in the Far East. He has a completely dejected look on his face, which everyone has assumed is because his family was erased in the decimation. Again, that probably happened, but it wouldn't be that much of a surprise for us to discover they were actually alive and well, and that something else has driven him to mercilessly kill a load of Japanese gangsters. Natasha Romanoff and Steve Rogers are then shown again, and it's notable that Romanoff still has blonde hair and Rogers has shaved his beard off. Both of those things seem like strange things to deceive fans about, but given how much people have been talking about her hair color and his shaven face, don't be surprised to discover Romanoff as a redhead and Rogers with a big bushy beard in the final movie. The pair are talking about their plan, and everyone's assuming it's the plan to reverse time and undo Thanos' actions. But there may well be a plan before that, with only Romanoff and Rogers in on it, which fails at the first attempt. The movie's title then appears on the screen, and while some underwhelmed fans would like to believe it's not the finalized official title, we're pretty sure it is. Then the trailer's zinger happens. Scott Lang, who was of course completely missing from Avengers Infinity War, is shown on a screen trying to gain access to the building Romanoff and Rogers are in. Again, we're all assuming it's the Avengers headquarters, but it could be anywhere really. It is, after all, quite difficult to imagine it being that easy to drive up to the front door of such a secure, high-tech facility, even for a skilled former criminal like Paul Rudd's character. And that was our trailer. The only other lie we were undoubtedly told is the order in which the events of it were presented, and how long after the snap the events in the trailer occur. The opening scene of the movie may well be Clint Barton being brought back to America. We might not see Thanos until near the end, when the Avengers' plan starts to take effect. Tony Stark might not be seen floating in space until halfway through the movie. Then again, he might already be home by the time we see that gallery of missing people. Essentially, the whole thing could be completely out of sync with the order in which the movie is ultimately presented. And we're cool with that. We like surprises. We're also given the impression that a lot of time has passed since the snap, but for all we know, it might literally just have happened. Who knows? All things considered, the trailer didn't give much away, which is a good thing. And while we certainly got a feel for the movie's tone, we probably shouldn't believe a single thing we saw in it. Marvel are sneaky little devils, after all.
Well guys, we've now all seen the first trailer for the fourth Avengers movie, Avengers Endgame. It didn't give much away, but it was enough to get fans even more excited for it. And it did have a zinger at the end. While most people knew Paul Rudd's Scott Lang would be appearing in the movie, it was cool to see him in the trailer's final scene, given that he missed out on Infinity War. He obviously escaped the quantum realm, where he was stranded at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp. And in this video, we'll theorize exactly how he managed it. Whatever you do, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's the best way of keeping up to date with all of Screen Rant's great new videos. That's right, Scott Lang appeared at the end of the Avengers Endgame trailer on a screen being viewed by Steve Rogers and Natasha Romanoff, appearing to be outside of what we assume is the Avengers headquarters in upstate New York, asking to be buzzed in. His arrival surprised Rogers and Romanoff to say the least, given they'd assumed he'd been dusted when Thanos erased half of all life in the universe in Avengers Infinity War. Lang had driven there in the same brown van that housed the miniature quantum tunnel scene in the mid-credits scene of Ant-Man and the Wasp, so it looks as though he reappeared in the normal world in the same location we saw in that scene, then drove straight to see the Avengers. So just how does Lang escape from the quantum realm in Avengers Endgame? Well, there are three main theories regarding how it might happen, and without further ado, let's delve straight into them for your viewing and listening pleasure. The first theory is one that's been doing the rounds for quite some time, but it's one that seems less likely now that we've seen the trailer, and it's the theory that Captain Marvel will rescue him from the mysterious subatomic plane. We've been told the Captain Marvel movie will feature the quantum realm, which leads us to believe Carol Danvers' powers will be linked to it in some way, or at least suggests that she knows about it and might be able to access it. Perhaps Nick Fury knew about future events, possibly because of Doctor Strange traveling back in time to lay the foundations of the plans to defeat Thanos, and that might be the main reason he sent a message to Brie Larson's character in the Avengers Infinity War post-credits scene. It's quite possible that back in the 90s, Doctor Strange or even the Ancient One made contact with him and told him about future events. He may then have told Captain Marvel that if he ever paged her, she needed to head to the quantum realm and rescue a man named Scott Lang in order to save the universe. It's a far-fetched and extremely convoluted idea, but it's a comic book movie, so it's certainly not impossible and we shouldn't rule it out. However, the one thing that makes it seem unlikely is that Paul Rudd's character was on his own in the trailer. Had it been Captain Marvel who had rescued him, you have to imagine he'd have been with her. The next possibility, which is at least slightly more likely than the Captain Marvel idea, is that Doctor Strange will be the one who personally rescues Scott Lang from the quantum quantum realm. When Strange went forward in time in Avengers Infinity War, he saw 14,605 possible futures, and he said the heroes of the MCU only came out on top in one of them. Given that he discovered those odds, he would surely want to do whatever he could to ensure that one victorious future came to fruition, not least to ensure he didn't ultimately end up being erased from existence permanently. Maybe in that one future he saw how important Scott Lang was, and given that he had the time zone in his possession at the time, he might have headed into the past to help Lang out. Strange could, for example, have traveled back to before Lang got trapped in the quantum realm and told him how to get out, or his assistants might have been even more hands-on. Given that sorcerers in the MCU can travel to other realms, we've seen them do it with the mirror dimension for example, he might have headed into the quantum realm and pulled Lang out himself. Given that Strange looked into the future, and given that it looked like Lang emerged from the quantum realm a short time after Thanos infamously snapped his fingers, Strange might have actually headed into the future while he was on Titan and rescued Lang before heading back to Titan to ensure events transpired as they needed to for that one successful future to unfold. Gee whiz, this is so complicated. Of course, the final possible way, and by far the most likely way in which Scott Lang will escape from the quantum realm, is to simply do it himself. In the aforementioned mid-credits scene of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Janet Van Dyne warned Lang not to get sucked into a time vortex, because they'd be unable to save him if he did. Without any other options, Lang might purposely go into one in the hope that it brings him back into the normal world. Given that the Avengers Endgame trailer leads us to believe Lang reappears in the not-too-distant future, the time vortex he enters may fortunately simply project him into a post-snap world when the surviving heroes are still looking for a way to undo Thanos' actions. There's an additional theory that suggests quantum energy is actually the green energy that powers the Time Stone, so maybe Doctor Strange had traveled into the past and taught Lang how to manipulate it. The Infinity Stones seem to react to their wielder's wishes, so if Lang was surrounded by green energy and simply wished to appear in the not-too-distant future, his wish might come true in Endgame. Regardless of how Lang escapes the quantum realm, the important thing is he definitely does. He's undoubtedly going to be an incredibly important character in Avengers Endgame, and his re-emergence into the world is likely to signal the start of the fight back against Thanos. He'll be able to tell the likes of Steve Rogers, Bruce Banner, and potentially Tony Stark about the quantum realm and its ability to manipulate time. And together with other powerful characters like Captain Marvel and Thor, he'll play a big part in kicking the Mad Titan's purple butt. It's quite ironic, and in a way quite fitting, that having insulted Spider-Man by calling him an insect in Avengers Infinity War, Thanos' big victory will be undone thanks largely to the actions of a guy who goes by the name Ant-Man.
So, the first Avengers 4 trailer just dropped, and it's official, the Infinity War sequel is going to be called Avengers Endgame. That was one of the many previously touted titles that fans had been predicting, but that doesn't mean we're any less excited about it. It's sure to be an exciting emotional roller coaster ride of a movie, and we simply can't wait to see it. But what does that title mean for the movie? In this video, we'll theorize about exactly that. Dread it, run from it. You should hit that subscribe button all the same. It's the best way of keeping up to date with all of Screen Rant's great new videos. So for a quick recap of the trailer, it opens with Tony Stark floating around in space, recording a message for Pepper Potts, accepting that given that he's run out of food and water and is quickly running out of air, he's going to die. We then briefly see the Mad Titan Thanos living out his life on the farm we saw him at the end of this year's Infinity War, still wearing that Infinity Gauntlet and using his armor as some kind of scarecrow. Natasha Romanoff's voice can be then heard, followed by that of Steve Rogers talking about what Thanos did. The decimation, as it's now officially known, while some of the surviving Avengers and Nebula are seen looking somber. And we get our first glimpse of Clint Barton in what looks like Japan wearing his Ronin gear. Romanoff then tells Rogers that it's going to work, and Rogers says he knows it is, suggesting he wouldn't know what to do with his life if it didn't. This, of course, suggests that the surviving heroes have a plan. Exciting, right? Well, things then get more exciting as the Avengers Endgame title is revealed, before Romanoff and Rogers see Scott Lang on a screen, seemingly outside Avengers HQ trying to get in. Rogers wonders if it's an old message, as they obviously assumed Lang was decimated when Thanos snapped his fingers. But Romanoff confirms he's outside, and that was our trailer. Of course, we've learned not to believe anything we see in MCU trailers. The Hulk was shown fighting in Wakanda in the trailers for Avengers Infinity War, and we know how that turned out. In the Endgame trailer, for example, we see Letitia write Shuri on what looks like a gallery of missing people, which is led to some fans assuming she disappeared when Thanos snapped his fingers. But we were previously told she survived the decimation. Don't believe your eyes, guys! But what does the Endgame title mean for Avengers 4? Well, it's a callback to two previous uses of the term in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. First of all, Tony Stark used it in 2015's Avengers Age of Ultron when referring to cosmic threats. Then, Doctor Strange used it in Avengers Infinity War after handing the Time Stone over to Thanos to save Tony's life, saying, "We're in the Endgame now." Therefore, you have to assume that both Stark and Strange will be important in this movie. Stark will obviously be rescued from the cosmic wilderness, perhaps by Captain Marvel, Thor, or even Strange himself, who will probably be revealed to be alive, having faked his own dusting in Infinity War. It could even be Pepper Potts who rescues him. In the comics, her superhero name is Rescue, a word Stark actually uses in the trailer when he leaves a message for her. And she's rumored to be suiting up in the fourth Avengers outing. Once Stark is rescued, he and Strange will then be key to accessing and manipulating the quantum realm in order to travel through time to undo what Thanos did. Of course, other characters will also be important. The term endgame is used in chess to refer to the stage of the game when only a few pieces are left on the board. Just like what happened when Thanos snapped those fingers and erased several prominent characters, or chess pieces if you want to look at it that way. The king becomes particularly a prominent attacking piece in the endgame in chess. So could that mean someone like Thor will be particularly important in this movie, given his royal nature? It's certainly possible considering how much damage we already know Stormbreaker can inflict on the prune-shinned villain. The pawns also become more important in the endgame, so could that be a reference to the fact that seemingly less useful characters like Hawkeye, Black Widow, and M'Baku will play a major part in Avengers Endgame? Again, it's very possible. Essentially, we're going to see lots of characters playing their parts to ensure the hero's chess-esque strategy is executed perfectly. Given the term's relevance in the chess world, could we even see Jeff Goldblum's Grandmaster playing a big part? That might be pushing it. We'll have some characters protecting the important ones. This will probably include the likes of War Machine, Steve Rogers, Black Widow, and Hawkeye. Others will be going all out to attack Thanos. This will probably include the likes of the Hulk, Thor, Nebula, and Captain Marvel, while others carry out more intricate tasks involving technology, magic, the quantum realm, and time travel. And this will probably include the likes of Shuri, Tony Stark, Scott Lang, and, if he's still alive, Doctor Strange. But the very fact that the title has the word end in it means we'll inevitably end up bawling our eyes out watching this movie. It will be the end for some beloved characters, and indeed the end of an era for the MCU. We're definitely going to see at least one of the original Avengers being permanently killed off. Heck, we might see several, or even all of them sacrificing their lives for the greater good. Let's face it, the likes of Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor have had their fair share of screen time over the course of the last decade. If they were to trade their lives, as was hinted towards in Infinity War, so that the likes of Spider-Man, Black Panther, and Mantis can be given another chance to shine in the franchise going forward, it would be a fitting way for them to exit. The fact that the word game is in the title is also very curious, however. Could the heroes of the MCU end up enjoying getting their revenge on Thanos? Steve Rogers certainly seems confident that their plan's going to work, and if it all goes smoothly, some enjoyment could certainly be possible. Until, some of them have to sacrifice themselves to ensure an ultimate victory. With Scott Lang set to be a prominent figure, and the likes of Tony Stark and Rocket still alive and kicking from the very start of Endgame, there'll certainly be some laughs. And if the heroes do have some fun, it will certainly help to at least somewhat offset the inevitable heartbreak of losing some of our favorite heroes for good. It may also have been important that in the trailer, the movie's title kind of reconstituted itself. In much the same way the MCU's heroes are expected to fix the universe in the movie itself. Regardless of exactly what the title means, it looks like it's going to be one heck of a movie. With around 4 months to go, it remains to be seen whether or not we'll get another trailer, or how much we'll learn about Avengers Endgame before it's released. For now, however, we're happy to make do with the teaser we've been given, because not only did it totally whet our appetites, it really has been a long time coming. What do you think the term Endgame means for the fourth Avengers movie? Have we got it right here? Did you like the trailer? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Screen Rant for more great videos just like this one. We're in the Endgame now.